What's the last thing you want to know?
So the third question that I have, the third thing that I want to know
Yeah.
is, so now that we've clarified niching down, focusing on a specific ideal customer group, then the question is around pricing,
Hmm.
right? And how do you position pricing? Because it feels so arbitrary because there's
Yeah.
in the tangible world, I can like physically see this mug could cost $5
Hmm.
or this AirPods could cost 150, whatever. But in the intangible world that we live in as coaches, it really is you make up your price, right?
Hmm.
So how
Hmm.
should coaches think about this? How should I think about
Yeah.
this, given that I drew the line in the sand and I only serve these kind of people and I only want like maybe 3 clients to go
Hmm.
a long distance as we talked about, because I'm not
Yeah.
into like short term thing. So how would I position myself? What is the ceiling? What's possible? And all these,
Hmm.
yeah, this is like a bunch of questions about pricing.
Yeah. It's totally understandable. You have a bunch of questions about pricing because everyone has a bunch of questions about pricing, right?
Right.
Like it's fascinating. It's complicated. It's all over the place. Pricing in large part is perception. Even in terms of physical products, why are some t-shirts $5 and some 500?
Yeah.
It's all perception and what people are actually buying.
Yeah.
Are they actually buying a t-shirt or are they buying what the t-shirt says about them? Are they
Right.
buying status or whatever? So my first thing is I would say it is absolutely possible to charge high prices, to go high tier with coaching. Like there is no, I would argue there is no ceiling
Yeah.
actually. So how the question becomes, how do you do that? And so one obvious, although both obvious and obscure answer is you create higher value and you can attract higher paying clients. But then you have to define what is that value, what is higher value, et cetera. One thing, a minor thing that I would definitely consider is the words you use and how you present your service can have a
Mhm.
huge impact.
True.
So I'll give you in people's, again, perception of value. So I, for a couple of years ago, had a paid newsletter. And it was a weekly newsletter and I would, it was called This Is How I Do It. And I would share behind the scenes of how I did stuff in my business. When I stopped calling it a paid newsletter and
Mm.
started calling it a collection of resources, sales went up.
Me.
Same product,
Right.
same every week. I send you an email with a new resource, but there was a perception that paid newsletter was only worth X,
Right.
right? Or wasn't worth it, whatever. Maybe even they were like, oh, that kind of feels like I don't need another newsletter or whatever.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
all of a sudden, when I started referring to it as a collection of resources, it felt more valuable or people were more likely to buy. So keeping that in mind, the words you use to describe your service are really important. And there's no necessarily obvious right or wrong. It's just different things convey different messages to different people. Whether you call what you do coaching or consulting
Mm.
or advising or mentoring or whatever you like, each of those things have a different connotation in certain people's mind. They may be more willing to pay a higher amount for an advisor than they would a coach or vice versa. It all depends. They may say, if, using the term founder coach might appeal to some people, using the term entrepreneur coach might appeal to
Right.
different people. So there's no right way, but it's something to think about and be very strategic about what terms you're using and why. Maybe having conversations with people or seeing how people react to different terms,
Right.
that kind of thing. The other thing about price is as you're thinking through what you're doing, all of this stuff is connected. Let's just say hypothetically, you wanted to build a $20,000 a month coaching business.
Right.
So right now, and again, I'm just looking at your site. So I think on your site, you charge like $330 for a 1 hour call
Right.
roughly. So let's think about that in the big picture of these ongoing clients. And if your goal was 20,000 a month,
Right.
if you're pricing a weekly 1 hour call publicly out there at 330, that
Right.
means if I was going to get a weekly call with you on a monthly basis,
Right.
that's $1,300 a month.
Right.
You've just boxed yourself in.
Mm.
Unless you're offering a different service in the bigger
Mm.
package. Again, I'm saying if a ongoing retainer is 1 call a week, hypothetically, unless you're offering a different service, you can't justify charging more than 1,300 for monthly coaching if
Mhm.
you've gone out publicly and said it's 330 an hour. Now, at that rate, which you have established for yourself by saying it's 330 an hour, you would need 15 monthly clients to hit 20,000 a month. So that's not realistic, nor
Yeah.
even not realistic because you couldn't sell it. but you probably don't want to and can't manage 15 monthly clients
Right.
doing weekly calls. That's a lot.
Right.
So by setting and establishing publicly a $330 per hour rate, you've essentially blocked yourself from the potential of having a 20,000 monthly coaching business.
Right.
That's what I mean by you boxed yourself in.
Right.
So that's something you definitely want to keep in mind, that whatever sort of smaller stuff you're going to do. Now, look, you may decide that your monthly coaching service is a different service and has different elements, right?
Right.
So you might go, it's a weekly call plus access to me via email. You can tweak the
Right.
product, but it's
Right.
something to understand that those low level prices do put a bit of a sort of anchor in the ground and can
Yeah.
impact what you're doing,
Right.
especially when it's publicly available.
Especially, I
Right.
think, especially as the clients and the leads see the information
Yeah.
that's all in public sphere, right? Because
Yeah.
they're thinking the way you're thinking right now, because
Yeah.
they don't know the context of what's happening. No, I think what seems to me would be a clearer strategy is basically reverse engineer how much money do I want to make from a
Mhm.
coaching business without losing my sanity, right?
Yeah.
Per month. If that number is 20 or 25K, 30K, whatever, 20 to 30K, put some anchor to it. Say, go, that's the
Mhm.
number that I want. And then reverse engineer that into how many clients do I want to handle a month?
Exactly.
Because that's all important, because I could get $1,000 for
Yeah.
client 20, which is a pain in the ass. Or maybe I can get 3 clients, 7K, and we're good. So if I want 3 clients or 4 clients only, then
Mhm.
we reverse engineer and go, okay, how much should I be charging publicly
Yep.
versus through some other things that I'm doing?
Yeah.
And what should be the perception value of this, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. This is
And I would also go even a step further, right? So let's say you did decide that. Let's say you're like, I want to do 3 clients at 7,000 a month. And then you go, okay, I'm going to make the argument that this is worth 7,000, but like that person who's that founder who's trying to figure out marketing, distribution, whatever. If they have a budget of 7,000 to spend on improving their marketing and distribution, what could they do? They could buy this course, they could hire an
you're gonna hire
employee,
growth
they could
agency,
run
hire an
Facebook
employee.
ads, they
Right,
could
right,
do whatever. So
right.
in your mind, you know that you have to figure out how to make the argument that the 7,000 they're going to spend on you
Is
is
it
going to
better?
get them more than whatever else they could spend
Yeah.
on you. And that argument can certainly be made, right? That may seem intimidating, but it can absolutely be made. But and this gets back to the sort of why are they choosing you, or in this
Mm.
case, the point. Once you do the sort of reverse engineered math and figure out this is what I need to sell, this is a mistake people make a lot of times, especially you see it a lot with like ads and sponsorship. I come from the entertainment industry, right? A movie studio has a budget to buy ads to promote their movie.
Right.
They have to spend that money.
Right.
Your pitch is not trying to get them to spend money they weren't otherwise going to spend.
Mm.
Your sales pitch is this is why you should spend that money with me as opposed to this other publication or this other thing. That's subtle, but it's really different.
The
Right.
contrast. The contrast.
Right.
of-
Your client has, in
point
this
is-
hypothetical example, right? Your potential client has already committed or has budget to spend $7,000 on marketing,
Mm.
making this up.
Right.
Your sales pitch is this is why you should spend that 7,000 with me, as opposed to hiring an employee, buying Facebook ads, doing whatever it is. And if they don't have that 7,000 to spend, yeah, you could still pitch them, but you're much better off going after the people that have the money to spend and winning them over, as opposed to trying to get them to spend new money, which is significantly harder.
Harder. Yeah.
The other thing I would say is target audience is a huge piece of this, obviously, especially when you start talking about higher tier. If you go after people that are just starting out or people that don't have much money to invest, you can only charge so much.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example because this is something I'm going through right now that I'm actually getting ready to launch in the new year. I think I'm 95% sure. And I haven't talked about this at all, but I'm going to launch. I'm not even sure what I'm calling it yet. That's how new it is, but some sort of mastermind cohort type thing. It's not going to be a mastermind group coaching, whatever. It's not going to be a course. And I'm specifically aiming it at people who use newsletters to get clients,
Right.
not to sell ads, not to just grow an audience, but to get clients. Why am I doing that? I'm doing that because there's a concrete and specific revenue I'll help them create that justifies a higher price. It's
Mm,
more valuable. Whereas I could do the same thing and sell it to people who are just trying to get free newsletter subscribers or just starting out, whatever. But if I want to charge a higher price point, I need an audience that justifies that
right.
higher price. That is an example when you think about your coaching. So if you want to make 20,000, if you want to charge 7,000 a month, you need to be going at an audience and presenting yourself to an audience that this is for, that has that money, right?
Mm,
So there might be a difference between, and you need to figure out for yourself what that is. But there's a difference between first time founders that have funding and first time founders that are bootstrapped.
bootstrap. Yeah, huge difference. Right.
Huge
Yeah.
difference. So you might decide that, yeah, you help everybody, but that really your coaching is for first time founders that have
Oh,
funding
the seed round or yeah.
or, right, or have income.
Right.
They have something happening. And I think that's another way to look at it, right? To go, look, you're going to pay me 7,000 for coaching, but this coaching over the course of the year is going to help you double your income.
Revenue or
So
income.
like
Yeah.
for me with this newsletter course and, or not course, but this mastermind thing, which, I think is going to be at the moment, I'm thinking it's going to be a 4-month, 4 months mastermind, limited
Right.
number of people, going to charge $2,000 for it.
Right.
So in my mind, I go, if you spend $2,000
Right.
and I can help you get a couple clients, probably going to pay for itself. That's super different than if I said, I'm going to charge $2,000. I'm going to help you get 1,000 free newsletter subscribers.
Right.
Now I'm asking you to, even if you're happy with it, right? Even if it's quote unquote successful. And I think that's for you. What does successful look like for your potential clients? So hopefully you can see like the big takeaway here. And I think this is a good summary of kind of everything that we've talked about is there needs to be alignment in
Mm,
what you offer, who you offer it to, how you price it, and how you present it. When those 4 things are aligned, it will not fit everyone, but it will really attract and convert the people that you most want to work with, which is the whole point of all of this.
absolutely. Love it. I think, I mean, there's so many sort of tangents you went on that were useful and to sit down and really ponder on, especially for my use case. I got like a couple ideas that I want to put pen to paper
Yeah.
and draw it out and see if that resonates with like how I
Yep.
want to present myself. But I think this has been awesome, man. Thank you so much.
Cool. Thank you. And I'll give you one final note as you do that. Whatever you decide to do is always going to evolve.
Yeah.
So people, I think, hesitate. They get paralyzed because they're like, what if it's wrong? What if I decide I didn't want to do this or what? You're not locked into anything. The
Mhm.
key to me is that in any given moment, you are being strategic about what you're going after, even and knowing that strategy will evolve and change over time. When you're not strategic and you're not specific about what you're trying to do, you get kind of lost and stuck in the morass. Even if it doesn't work, it's helpful for you to go, I'm trying this approach and ultimately it didn't work and I'll pivot and whatever.
I think intentionality in the strategy is
Yes.
the one last thing I'll say here. And
Yeah.
I was not expecting a lot of this. I was expecting, of course, because but I think because I listened to you and I know how you think, but the part that I was not expecting was how you tied strategy to your beliefs about the
Mhm.
world and about your niche and about who you are. So the strategy feels like an evolution of your belief system.
Yeah.
So it started with beliefs. What do I believe? And rather make it very clear where scale calls these spiky points of view, etc.
Yeah.
Like those beliefs lead to the strategy, which is very clear now. Because if you're
Yep.
really believing in those things, your strategy is clear. If you half-ass believe them, then it's unclear. If you really believe them, your strategy is clear. Now, from strategy, you take them into experimentation and execution. Let's see if this resonates. Because sometimes that may not happen.
Yeah.
You may not get the resonance and you have to pivot. But
Yeah.
strategy will stay the same or at least aligned with the beliefs. And that's
Yeah.
coupling that I think is very surprising to me here, but in a good way.
Yeah, no, said. I think you may have said it better than I did. And I think that's a great point. And I also think that's why it will evolve
Yeah.
because our beliefs always evolve.
Yeah.
So if strategy comes out of beliefs and your beliefs are evolving over time based on your life experiences and everything else,
Right.
then it only makes sense that the way you approach it and the things you want will also evolve.
Right.